5 years in prison. That is the sentence for Peter Cichuniec today for his role in Elijah McClain's death.
Longest sentence so far for any of the first responders convicted for McClain's death. However, it was also the minimum sentence that the judge could have given Cichuniec in this case. He's the first of 2 paramedics to be sentenced. He was the supervisor, the one who approved giving McClain a lethal dose of ketamine as officers held him to the ground. McClain was walking home in 2019 when officers confronted him. He had done nothing wrong. He died days later. For 2 hours this afternoon, the packed courtroom heard emotional testimony, stories about Cichuniec's character from his family, friends, and former colleagues. Then the judge heard from Cichuniec himself and from Elijah McClain's mother, Shaneen.
I wish that I could look into Miss McClain's eyes and tell her that Elijah would be okay. I can't, and that destroys me as a person, as a father, and as a paramedic. Miss McClain tragically lost a son, and we also lost a patient, and I don't take that lightly.
Peter chose to lose my son as a patient that night by his decision to watch my son take his last breath under the weight of a bully with a badge and his indecision to act for humanity.
Shaneen McClain spoke exclusively with our Alexandra Lewis after today's sentencing.
Today we saw the most prison time that will be handed down to any of the first responders charged in the death of Elijah McClain. But, we saw the most emotional I think I've ever seen Shaneen McClain throughout this entire process. A process that is almost over in the courts, but far from over in her heart.
I don't know what's worse. Having to wait this long. Having to see injustice continue. Having people get paid for my pain. I don't know what's worse, but I'm not okay. I never will be.
Shaneen was just one of the many people who packed courtroom 107 today, most in support of former Aurora paramedic Peter Cichuniec, who shuffled into the courtroom donning yellow stripes, ankles and wrists bound. 7 people spoke on his behalf, attesting to a selfless character and an impenetrable love of community.
His delusions of grandeur mean nothing. No matter how he looks at himself, he's scum too.
Cichuniec was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Not long enough for a mother who's waited nearly 5 years for justice.
Unfortunately, this is it, right? I don't see no hope. I don't see no change. A little bit of law here, a little bit of law there. Nothing stops their hatred. Nothing stops their racism, and nothing stops their evil protocols and practices. We mean nothing to them.
To Shaneen, today's sentencing and the previous and the next were always larger than her son's death. And what remains is fractured trust between communities of color and the first responders that are meant to serve them. Today, no chapters close for a mother whose son's story will always remain unwritten.
Honestly, I'm so glad it's almost over because I'm just so glad it's over. I can't even imagine what Elijah experienced, I can't even imagine. So I'm just glad this part's over.
Shaneen will have to give one more victim impact statement next month at Jeremy Cooper's sentencing. For her, it's been the hardest part of this process. In Brighton, Alexandra Lewis, 9 News.